Welcome to the Becoming Body Smart podcast, where we unlock the secrets of sustainable health and fitness and help you master your health habits. If you're tired of quick fixes, generic blueprints, and chasing short-term results, you're in the right place. It's time to become Body Smart.
All right. So welcome, Instagram audience as well as our audience in our live weekly group calls. So we just wanted to introduce our Instagram audience to what we do here at Body Smart. So 3 times a week we go live in our private membership group so that we can share with people kind of our latest, greatest info and how we, help people hit their goals and move forward in their life with the different, essentially health goals, whatever they are, whether it's a performance goal or a lifestyle change goal or just, living to 100 as healthy and as well as they can. And so that's what we love to do here at Body Smart. We want to help people live their best life for as long as possible. And so, we're going to hop into this call where we're going to talk about what we really mean when we say to keep moving through the pain. So here at Body Smart, we say that all the time. Like, just because something hurts doesn't mean you should stop moving. But there's obviously some nuanced information there as to how to keep moving and what to do so that you don't injure yourself or, make problems worse. And so that's an important feature and factor to make sure that we're staying healthy. Oh my gosh, I'm dying. Marty, raised your hand. Do you have something to say, Marty? Let's see. How do you keep moving through the pain? Let's see. We'll bring Marty on so people can come in and make comments and questions. So we invited Marty on. She raised her hand. Let's see.
Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry. I'm talking away and you can't hear me. And I can barely hear you. We're just starting the underpants run.
Oh, that's fun.
Here in Kona, Hawaii. See her granny panties? She's got granny panties on.
I love it. Those are huge.
And I have Ironman. I don't know if you can see that or not. But yes. So we just thought we'd stop by and really say hi and just interrupt really quick because you popped up on my phone. And so if you guys want to follow us on Saturday, it starts late your time, but my number's 556 and Katie's number again is
1634.
Okay, and you can watch us as we cross the finish line probably about 2 or 3 o'clock your time in the morning. So, but check up on us, see how we're doing. Okay, we'll say goodbye now.
All right, thanks, Marty.
Okay,
Awesome.
bye.
That's awesome. So Marty and Katie are there in Hawaii for Kona. So they are doing the Ironman World Championships this weekend. So how fun is that? So they're doing the underwear run right now, which is kind of a funny tradition there at Kona. So how exciting is that they get to go and participate in that? So both of them joined so that they could stay healthy while training for these big events. Marty is like crushing it right now. Yeah, she in May, I believe it was April or May, qualified for Boston and for the Ironman World Championships in the same month. Like, what an incredible athlete. So really fun. And honestly, the reason why they joined was to learn how to keep moving through the pain, but also how to stay healthy while pursuing these big goals. And so some people have huge goals like that, and other people it's like, I just want to keep moving and be able to do the things that I love to do and stay healthy. And honestly, that's the point of all of this, is to help people live healthy for as long as they can, so that we're not held back by our body, and our body's not the thing that's dictating how we can live our life.
Right. Well, and regardless of the goal, there's the basic principles, foundational principles about health and wellness that stay the same, right? Whether you're elite or just trying to get up a mountain in your local town. So before we dive into this chart, I want to talk about one of the things that people commonly hear when they go into a healthcare provider, right? Mm-hmm. They go in pain, and how many people have you heard, raise your hand, just stop moving, right? Or, you know what, running probably isn't for you, or this activity probably isn't for you, or you should just stop, right? Stop moving, put it in a boot, anything like that. We hear that really commonly.
All the time.
The problem is we don't hear the giant asterisk that comes with that.
Right.
and what that means
kind of what they actually mean.
What they actually mean. And the problem is what's been created in the healthcare system is we just don't have enough time so often. And so what that asterisk is, well, I don't have enough time to explain to you exactly what you should do and how you should approach this. I just have time to tell you to stop moving because that will get rid of the pain.
Right.
The problem is that the pain, if it stops us from moving, that actually sets us back much further than the pain itself does. And so when we
and sets us up for a higher risk of our next injury.
Of our next injury, right? And so it just isn't great from so many different fronts.
Right.
And so if we understand that, again, the basic principle is our bodies like to move, and that we find, healthy ways to keep moving. It doesn't mean that we necessarily do the same activities, but we can find a way to keep moving so that our body doesn't get weaker and more susceptible to injury, like Cameron said,
right.
in the process.
Right. If you rest away an injury, I believe it's somewhere in the 80% range of risk for your next injury if you rest an injury away instead of actively rehab and recuperate from an injury. And so that's such a foundational principle that you have to keep moving, but how do you do so in a smart way so that you're not increasing, the damage or the injury? Often we're not necessarily damaging our tissues when we keep moving, but if we do too much, you can. And so it's finding this sweet spot, this healthy balance between moving enough that as your tissues heal, that they heal strong, but not moving so much that we're perpetuating the problem and keeping things flared up and irritated. And so it's a difficult thing, finding that healthy balance of active movement while still putting the right amount of load on those tissues so that they build up and they get stronger. And so, go ahead.
So one other caveat before we dive into this is, and this is one of the benefits of having these group calls and having the communication, right, the PT in your pocket, is these are general guidelines, right? We found that they work pretty well, but often people have deeper questions than that, right? Or their situation is a little bit different. And so with these principles, and you'll see this in the chart, is it's still good to ask guidance, right? If you need help, if you have questions, if you're unsure of what your pain means, even with some of these principles, reach out. Let us know. We'd love to be able to help you. And that's one of the things that we do all the time with people in this group is they have a question pop up, they shoot us a message, and then we can address it right away so they can get back right away to doing the things that will allow them to get back to doing what they love faster, and they'll turn the volume down on the pain.
Right. That's one of the key elements of our Becoming Body Smart program is that PT in your pocket, that you have instant access to us. So make sure you use it, both of you, both audiences we're talking to today. Use that feature because the faster you can get help, the faster you return to full activity, the less likely you are to get injured again. And so the more you get help and the faster you get help, the better your outcome's going to be. So Lori said in the chat, she said, I met up with a fellow aerial arts mom who was put in a boot for 6 weeks due to tendonitis in her ankle. It's so hard I run into this every single day. It's so hard not to tell her to run away from that doctor and get some PT. Yeah, it is difficult because a lot of well-meaning clinicians often will put people in a boot. One of the things that I hate about being in a boot, in a walking boot, is that they say for every week you're in a boot, expect 6 months of rehab before you can return to full activity. And so oftentimes, just because the pain is gone, people go back to activity and they wind up with their next injury. And so you should really take just as many months off as you do weeks. So if you're 6 weeks in a boot, it should be 6 months before you're resuming activity at the level you were at before you got injured. And so that's a big deal to consider that versus, so is going in the boot a faster way to be out of pain? Yes. Yeah. It's a slower way and a much more dangerous and harmful way to resolve the actual issue. The question isn't whether or not I'm in pain. The question should be, what can I do to make it so that that pain never comes back, or why am I in pain in the first place? And that usually has nothing to do with your foot or nothing to do with, offloading your foot. and much more to do with strengthening and building up the resilience of your foot and building up the strength of the muscles around it. So how do we know when we have pain, what pain is, at an acceptable level, or, how do we interpret pain? We have that scale of 0 being no pain and 10 being the worst pain ever. Would you rate your pain for me? And everybody hates that scale because they're like, I don't know. 7. Yeah,
Right.
People just make up a number because it's hard to know.
Schmate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's so convoluted. And so I've seen it broken down a lot of different ways, but this is my favorite way, honestly, the way we kind of look at it here. So we're going to pull this chart up for you, and let me hurry and share my screen so y'all can see it at home. I posted it in the comments there, and sorry for those of you on Instagram. You may not be able to see this, but we're going to do this. So share our screen so you get the infinite loop.
The reason that we like...
I
don't know. The reason that we like
sharing
this one is a lot of them is it's solely built around how do we turn the volume down on the pain, which is helpful, right? We don't want to be living in pain all the time.
That's the one.
But looking at the perspective of, like Cameron said, how do we get back to activity faster? How do we find ways to keep moving? And so when we take it from that more long-term perspective, right, of we're going to be in our bodies a long time, and so learning how to deal with pain while allowing our bodies to heal and to get the activity that will actually get us stronger, right? Activity and exercise that will get us stronger, that will help us be more resilient in the future. If we look at it from that perspective, then it will help us change our relationship to pain and know better what to do so that we're better off in the long term.
Yeah, totally. So I'm going to try this so we can see what we're looking at here. Hopefully this comes through okay. So this is our guide to keep moving through the pain. So we've shared this with our audience, and so essentially as we go through this list of the different pain levels and all that, we can see like 0 being no pain and 10 being like unimaginable pain, worse than you ever thought you could hurt, is kind of 10 in my kind of estimation of things. So what are all the things in between? So at first it's a 1 to me is like, it's there, like I feel it, but it's not really painful. It's just kind of still annoyingly there. And 2 is kind of that escalated, like it's bothersome, it's annoying, I definitely notice it. I don't love that it's there, but it's not really holding me back quite yet. 3 is a solid, like, yeah, that hurts. Like it's beyond just bothering me. That hurts. So in that phase, we say keep moving with the asterisk of seek guidance if it lasts for more than 3 days. So like delayed onset muscle soreness, for example. Yeah, it's a little bothersome. It definitely can even be to the level of like it hurts, but it shouldn't be lasting. So if it's there for more than 3 days at that level of discomfort, then you should seek help. Get help and start doing what it takes to get rid of that and make sure that it doesn't escalate to the higher pain levels. And so pain kind of at that level, we want to keep moving, and that usually helps us get rid of that even faster if you keep moving. So keep moving, keep going there. Don't let it hold you back necessarily, but still pay attention to it. And if it lasts, get help and don't just push through the pain necessarily. Okay, so 4. Now it's beyond just it hurts. It's like, okay, that's painful. It really is something that's starting to feel like it's limiting. It's getting worse. A 5 is it actually starts altering the way I'm moving. I'm not, I'm having to maybe limp or kind of move away from that. I can still do stuff, but it's starting to alter my movement. That we want to avoid for sure. And then sharp pain. Anything that's a sharp, stabby pain, we definitely want to avoid that type of stuff. And so what do we need to do there? We need to decrease our activity, not stop our activity, just decrease it below the level of that 4, 5, 6. If we can keep it in the 3 and below, then we're golden. And so decrease our activity to keep it in that 3 or below. So one of the things to note, we've got another asterisk there, that if you pay for it later, decrease activity a little bit more. So that's one of those things that we often see, that people will be like, oh yeah, I was able to keep it kind of right on that 3-4 border, but then when I got home and cooled down, oh, I really paid for it later. That's where we didn't quite decrease activity enough there. So once we get into this range of that 4, 5, 6, we need to start actively rehabbing it. We need to start getting treatment for it, or doing the right types of exercises that are going to help us eliminate it. Again, same thing here. If it's lasting greater than 3 days, we want to seek rehab for it as well. But definitely we need guidance. Don't try to push through this on your own if it's in this 4, 5, 6 range. Okay, 7, 8. We've got that stabbing, deep, throbbing pain. That's, where when you move, it stabs, it hurts, or you're, throbbing, you're paying for it later, that type of thing. And then 8 is that constant and limiting. It's keeping you from really being able to move right and do the things you want to do. So that constant limiting pain is that 7, 8. And there we're going to limit activity even more, not just decrease it, but we really should only be doing activities that's been prescribed to us at that point. Mm-hmm. So like, for example, post-surgically, a lot of people that come out of having a total knee replacement will rate their pain at 7, 8, and we still get them up out of bed and have them walk down the hall. We know that it's going to hurt that bad. It's predictable because of what they just had happen. And so just because it's that high doesn't mean it's necessarily harmful, but they're under the guidance of a rehab professional helping them decide what is okay and not okay. And so that's the big caveat there, is you want to limit activity to those things that a rehab professional has told you is okay to do. And then the seek help now section is that intense, unrelenting, or that unimaginable pain. So when it gets really, really bad, that's when we want to get immediate help for those types of things. And that's where calling a physical therapist is a really great way to go. You don't always have to go to the ER or things like that for pain, especially orthopedic pain, joints, muscles, tendons, ligaments. Go see your PT. Your path back to wellness is going to be a lot faster and a lot cheaper. On average, like I saw a new study today out that people saved about $4,200 if they went to see a PT for back pain. So they saved on average about $4,200 versus going to see their general practitioner. That's a big savings. And they got back to work faster, they got back to activity faster, all those things. So anyway, those are all of our categories of kind of what the pain maybe should look like at each level, how to kind of define that, and then what you should do about it. So Mark, thoughts?
Yeah. Well, so one thing with this is even couple caveats. So even in those, like if that one particular body area is hurting more, one of the mistakes that we often make is it's like, oh, well, that hurts, so I'm just not going to do anything, right? We kind of totally stop activity. And so even if it's at the place where we really can't move it, right? It's kind of that, 7, 8, 9, 10. Can we continue to move the rest of our body while we're actively rehabbing, right? The really cool thing about our bodies is even when we're exercising like one side of our body or one limb, there's some crossover effects to the other side, right? And then just general cardiovascular exercise that's good for our whole body. And so to make sure that, like, even if we're decreasing activity in one area of our body, are there ways that we can keep up the activity in other areas, right? So that we're not on that like downward curve, losing strength, losing endurance, things like that. The other thing is with this scale, being realistic and being honest. It's kind of a joke in our world that, you ask people, okay, like, where's your pain at? Oh, this is a 14. It's like, yeah, but the scale goes to 0 to 10. Yeah, but this is so bad.
This is, worse than you could even imagine.
Right.
It's like, I've seen a lot of patients that have had some really bad.
Right, which we get. Yeah. But being realistic in that way of, like, keeping it in that 0 to 10 and being, like, really honest. Like, is this unimaginable pain? Is this the worst pain you've ever felt? But then also on the other end, like, not giving it a high enough degree, right? Like when it's really there, just kind of toughing through the pain and being like, oh, I'm not a wimp, I got this. Just be as realistic as possible in kind of judging yourself on there, because that's going to help with getting you back to activity faster, right? Like if you really are that 7, 8, 9, 10, then it means that we've got to take action right now. We've got to change some things. And the sooner that we start, the shorter that whole process will be. And that's honestly with any area on this pain scale. The sooner that we make a change and the sooner that we address this, the quicker that we can get back to doing the things that we love. And so understanding that and being realistic on both sides of the scale and dialing that in so that you know what to do, right? Is it just decreasing activity a little bit? Is it limiting it more? Is it like, I need to go see someone right now? Knowing that will just help you to find the next best step.
Mm-hmm. So you notice with that scale, we didn't make it about your toughness. Like the words we tried to use were avoiding words that had anything to do with your mental fortitude or toughness, right? Because like Mark said, we often see that the people that are the most, it's just funny. So people will say, oh, I have a high pain tolerance. Usually when somebody says they have a high pain tolerance, they actually have a poor pain tolerance. They're typically the ones that are in pain a lot and actually have a poor pain tolerance, but they're just always in pain, versus the people that you'll often talk to and they're like, oh, I'm such a wuss about pain. I hate being in pain, and so I'll do whatever I can to not be in pain. Usually those people are actually the toughest, because when they feel pain, they tough through it because they don't want to come across as weak or things like that. And so it's kind of funny. Usually it's the opposite. When somebody's like, oh, I'm just being a big wuss about this, often I'll go, it probably is a lot worse than they're saying then. And people that are in general, they're like, I actually have a really high pain tolerance. And I'm like, yeah, this probably isn't as bad as what they're saying.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just the jaded clinician in me. But I've just seen that so often. And so the way we tried to categorize each level of pain was more about function and more about those specific symptoms that you'll experience, so that you can identify where you're really at, which allows us to then say, okay, this is what we need to do about it, depending on which section you're in. And so hopefully it's a helpful guide of knowing, like, oh, when should I seek help? How should I seek help? And what does my pain mean in terms of activity participation? Like, should I still go on this run, or should I still run this marathon? Part of what inspired us to create this chart was a patient who's preparing for a marathon and who is, we're trying to have her maybe not run this marathon, but she seems pretty intent on running it. And so that was her question, is like, how bad can the pain be? Like, how do I know when the pain is bad enough that I shouldn't keep running, or that I shouldn't run this race? And so we kind of outlined it that way and helped her see, like, if it's that bad, then you really probably shouldn't keep going and should limit your activities to the things that, are building you up, and not really the things that continue to cause irritation of those tissues.
Right. Well, and with that, it helps us learn, like, what can I do and what should I maybe shy away for right now? And it helps us understand that pain is not typically the problem. It's what is the pain keeping me from doing? What is it limiting me from doing?
Yeah.
And so often we'll find, right, as people will continue to move through the pain in ways, again, that are predictable and they're not paying for it later. One of the questions that we often ask is, with that same level of pain, I know you're still in pain, but what can you do now that you couldn't before? Mm-hmm. And so often it'll be like, oh yeah, you know what? Like, now I can get up the stairs, and now I can walk through the grocery store, or now I can get back doing my hikes, or I can get back to playing tennis or pickleball or whatever it is. Yeah. And so again, it's pain is a symptom of a larger problem. And if we go back a couple levels, right, like what choices, what weaknesses, what lifestyle issues are creating the situation where I'm going through this again and again and again. And if we can step back and look at it from that perspective, then we can make changes so that we get through the pain now and get ourselves stronger, get ourselves more resilient, so that we don't keep dealing with the issues time and time again, which is what happens when we only chase pain. When we only chase pain, we try to turn down the volume as fast as we can without staying active, then typically we run into the same issues again and again and again. Mm-hmm. We get in this like pain, rest, cycle, all the while having the capacity of our tissues, right, having the strength and resilience of our tissues drop over time. And so if we can find ways to move that are healthy, that are good, and stay active, then we're going to be a lot better in the long run.
Yeah. So interestingly, we just did a metabolic test with somebody that had a pretty big accident and we had tested them kind of the year before this accident happened, and then during that year had a pretty bad accident, a running accident, and they injured their back pretty severely and things, and trying to share as much as I can without sharing too much so that people could identify it.
Good call.
But they had quite a bit of, we saw a lot of the markers, I guess, of their metabolic test drop, even though their fitness is still good, things like that. But VO2 max was down a few points. But one of the most interesting things was to see how their heart rate zones decreased and their total number of calories burned decreased by so much. And that was because they had to rest through that pain, or felt like they had to rest through that pain. And so they took most of the rest of the year off from doing any type of training. And there's where the problem is. Even though there was some injuries, there's still ways to exercise even through really any injury. And so by taking the rest of the year off, they're able to get their fitness back to some degree, but they're less effective in their fat burn. They're less effective at burning calories in general, and they lost quite a bit of their power. So their fast twitch muscle fibers and their ability to keep speed up and have that same level of effort feel effortless. And so that's a big problem. If we're losing power, then we're dropping off that cliff of function a lot faster. And so good news is he's back on the horse and he's doing all the things and he's building back up. But because it took him a sec to get back at it, we see a fairly precipitous decline. And so hopefully he'll be able to get that back. But interesting to see people's responses to pain and how that winds up kind of affecting their overall fitness and activity.
Yeah. And again, as always, like, if you have questions about your pain, what it means, what to do about it, please reach out and ask us. That's what we're here for, right? That's what we love doing. That's why we have these calls, is so that we can bring the best information, the most recent research, actionable stuff right to you, so that you don't have to wonder, you don't have to question, and you don't have to sit in pain wondering what the next step is.
Yeah. And so we love being able to be that resource for people and helping people stay fit, healthy, active. That's what it's all about. Again, we want to help you reach that 85 to 100 years old, being able to do all the things you love to do. So fun to see some of our patients. We've got one that comes in that's golfing 3 rounds a week of 18 holes at 90 years old. Like, how fun is that? That she's able to still keep doing the things she loves. And she was asking about how, why is walking up the stairs making me so out of breath lately, more than it ever has before? And we were talking about that, how, that's somewhat a normal part of aging, and that's why exercise is so important. And she's like, well, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for it to hold me back. I need to be able to keep moving. So I'll do what we got to do. And so it's like, perfect. That's who we love to work with, is people that are ready to do what they need to do. And so thank you all that are in our group, in our Becoming Body Smart membership, that are doing all the things to stay fit, healthy, active, young, and living your best life. And so that's what we're all about and how we love to help people. So thanks so much for joining this call about what we really mean when we say to keep moving through the pain. It's not always like just push through the pain. It's more about finding out where you're at with your pain and what you need to do to get rid of it while still moving and keeping your body's resilience and strength and capacity up. So thanks again so much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you guys on the next call. And we look forward to seeing all of you guys on a call in the future as well. So thanks so much for joining, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Becoming Body Smart podcast. If you have questions, thoughts, or want to continue the conversation, reach out to us on our socials or join our community. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps us bring you even more valuable content. Remember, sustainable health is a lifelong journey, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Live longer, live stronger, and become body smart.